But why don't we do some introductions first?
Yes, that's true.
So, why don't you start, Hebe, and
I'm Hebe Quinton, I'm an alternate on the planning board.
I'm Vicki Smith, I'm a planning board member.
I'm Tim Cook, planning board member.
Guys, can you speak up? I'm old and deaf.
Vicki Smith.
She's Vicki Smith. Tim Cook,
Got
Evie
that.
Quinton. I'm Nathaniel Niles, I'm a planning board member.
My name's Rich Brown, I'm an alternate here.
I'm Rich Mengy and I'm a regular member.
and I'm Dave Robbins, just the planning and zoning administrator.
Just.
Just.
You're the only one.
Well, here. So,
Okay. So Randy Marcotte, Regional Arborist with Eversource Energy. And this is, do you want me to introduce you or?
I could.
Okay.
I'm Tracy Brandt and I work for ACRT. We're a subcontractor with Eversource Energy that does tree inspections.
Oh, and I contacted you recently by email because you want to cut down a tree at my
Yeah,
house.
so did I.
Okay,
So you're gonna mark the tree with Illinois tape.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Vicki Smith. Okay.
Me too.
I guess, we're here to discuss the trimming on the scenic roads here in Lyme.
Yes, all right, so we're here for two things today. One, the trimming of the scenic roads in the town, and also, as part of our hazard tree program, anything that's outside the trim scope has to be considered what we call it a unit tree, as part of the hazard tree program, so.
A unit tree?
Yep, we call it a unit tree, or a risk tree, but it's part of the hazard tree program.
UNIT?
Yep.
Unit tree?
Yep,
Okay.
that's what we call it.
So like,
That's just our terminology.
That's fine.
like a dead tree or something.
Yep, so I call it the 4 Ds, dead, dying, disease, or defected. Things that we find are gonna fall into the lines and disrupt the power. Last cycle, I was actually the one who cleared Dorchester Road. I'm sure you guys have all noticed how open that is. Also, we hit the line really hard on East Thetford Road, because that's the feed that comes from Green Mountain Power that was constantly going out. So this year, we're kind of following up on that intense cutting I did, and just following up and getting the last few trees that we feel we need to get. So, when it comes to the scenic roads, we need permission from not only the landowner, but we need permission from the town. So tonight, I'm here to get permission from the town in regards to trimming, and then also the hazard trees that have been profiled and identified by Tracy.
You try to do it for 5-year cycle, is that right?
So typically, we used to be on a 3 to 4 year cycle, but now we have so many miles that we're doing more of like a 5-year cycle.
Yeah, Tracy just told me that, but yeah.
Yep, so with that comes a little bit more of an intense trim spec, because what that trim spec gives us is time. So we don't have to, because we can't come back every single year and just snip, 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 we need to get our clearance. Obviously, we can work around that with certain customers and stuff, but, so, I have this fancy, I just hit share screen.
Yeah, I believe so. Yep, there we go. Perfect.
Okay. All right, so this is a brand new system that we just started using. I started test piloting about 2 years ago, and we're fully implementing it now. So what you see here is the pink color is just part of the area work center, so just kind of show you guys a big picture of what I do. Oh, not too much. There's a delay. Let it load for a second. All right. So I take care of this gray area, this pink area, and then this other area. So I cover about 1/3 of the state right now. So I got a big area that I cover. So I work with a lot of contractors like Tracy that are certified and help us identify the trees that we need to take out. So we're just dealing, and you guys are basically Mars for us. This whole area around there is all co-op. And then we got Eversource right here, this little circuit. So, enhance. Okay. A little bit of a delay there. So I'm gonna try and just look at this screen because it's like messing me up. All right, so we have, We have River Road, which is right here. So East Sefford, so your property is right about, I'm guessing right around there. Yep, right there. So, and these, this is highlighted like a flamingo pink, as I call it. These are the scenic roads. So we have this scenic road. And that stretches all the way up to there, goes all the way up to Orford. And then we got Brick Hill right here, a little portion of line that we have. And the red, that's our power lines, for reference. So actually, if I enhance and enhance, I'll actually see my pole numbers. Okay? And then I can actually see that I can actually click on the property owner, you know, so.
So it's really Breck Hill.
Breck Hill?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for correcting me.
The label, see the label, see,
The
it
label's
starts out
wrong.
Breck Hill.
Oh,
then it
yes,
goes to
that,
Breck
and then
Hill.
brick,
The road is brick and the hill for every mapping service is brick. It drives me crazy.
okay, well, no, thank you for
There's-
correcting me.
It's confusion that's gone back hundreds of years,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah, I
a,
was gonna say.
Oh, you were not the first?
no,
Okay.
no. it's-
Okay,
And there's been
But it's
confusion
nice to
whether
be
it's
right.
brick or
yeah, no, I
brick.
like to be right,
There's
okay,
no brick in the cemetery.
alright. So then we got, Washburn Hill. Not too much in the way of lines on that road, but there is a little bit. What else do we have here?
Acorn Hill.
Acorn, right here.
Do you have the spur that comes down Market to Washburn, or is that just a tiny little island to co-op?
This section right here?
You go north, go up on that? Okay, Washburn. Okay, yep, alright.
Yep, so I'm guessing co-op probably comes in right here, merges in. Alright, so those are the roads, the scenic roads that are, being trimmed this year as part of our trim cycle. So we're here to ask for permission from the town. The landowners have already been contacted, or are still in the process of being contacted. And then, so first I'd like to get permission on that from the town and see if there's any questions on the trim spec, or any, landowners that have any questions on the trim spec. And I did hand out the card, but, yep.
So I wondered if you run into like a kind of legacy type tree, do you do anything to try to keep it? I know,
So like a tree in your front yard,
well, no, like a
Definitely, or
tree that's
just-
actually in your way.
yep,
Because some of those trees, I know like Jennifer's house is a, you know, really amazing, historic, beautiful architectural, you know, and looks much better with big old trees around it
Yep.
than it does with new trees or no trees. So is that part of like what you do or think about when you decide which trees
we
to?
do, it's at customer's discretion. So if we send that card out and they just sign it and say full spec,
Mhm.
we're gonna trim to full spec. So
Okay.
regardless of what it is for a tree, we're gonna shape that tree to
Right.
last.
Okay.
Which in some cases will not be what the customer might not, you know, it might not look good,
Mhm.
to the customer, but to us,
Mhm.
that's our trim spec that the
Mhm.
PUC requires us to get. There's obviously, options for the customers when they get that card, they can
Mhm.
ask for a consultation.
Mhm.
We'll meet with you guys and
Mhm.
come up with a plan,
Mhm.
and we can go around that. So it's not, doesn't have to be the full spec in every single
Mhm.
span,
Mhm.
but we do need to try to make it last. We have lots of customers that want that screening on their road.
Mhm.
Our spec is to flat cut.
Mhm.
And part of the reason for that is, one, it's for our booms to get underneath the lines, so that, because we actually have to go underneath and then bring the boom up to get our side clearance. And it's also when the power needs to be restored, the line guys don't have to sit there and go through all those sapling trees.
Mhm.
But, we can also cut a 2 to 3 foot gap,
Mhm.
so we can still get in there, and the customer can still have their screening. So there's, there's, it's very variable, it depends on what the customer wants.
Right,
But,
well, you know, I think you're in a tough place, obviously everybody wants electricity and you need to provide that service, but then I don't understand, you know, why we have the scenic road thing and that those types of things aren't taken into account, you know, just as a matter of routine, but it's nice that if the landowner reaches out, that things can be modified.
Yep.
And then, like, on my road, I live on Market Street, not a scenic road, but there's 2 poles. When does the other pole go away?
Oh, so you have an old pole and then
And a
new
new
poles been
pole,
set?
yeah. Mhm.
They can linger there for quite some time.
Well-
Unfortunately, I don't have anything to do with that part of it.
Well,
I'm
who
just-
does?
That would be the engineers, the area work center.
I see,
You have a
Yep.
chainsaw?
So,
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
And it's usually a company like JCR or something, a contractor that will drill the hole for the next pole, put the pole in, and then somebody's supposed to come and take those old poles out.
And so who do you contact for that?
Chris
You-
Gmar, is that a good name?
You said a very good name, yes, yep, so that's Newport Area Work Center, he's the main,
The Newport Area Work
Yep.
Center,
yeah, you
okay,
can talk to Chris.
yeah, because that's really annoying.
Yep.
And then for, like discontinued cabling, is he the same guy?
Cable, no. So a lot of times we share the poles with
Uh-huh.
cable,
Yeah.
so you have to tell,
Oh,
you have to
no.
call telecom.
No, I meant like wires. Like
Depends on
taking
which
out-
wires.
Okay.
So we're typically the top wire, which is
Yeah.
the primary,
Mhm,
and then we usually have we should, have a neutral underneath.
mhm,
So we're usually just the top two wires.
mhm,
Everything underneath is all telephone,
okay,
internet, Fidium, whatever you
Yeah.
guys have over here.
yeah, okay,
Line fiber.
And we share poles,
yeah,
so,
yeah, yeah.
so we
okay.
can't touch their lines, they have to
Right.
deal with that.
Right, got it.
And 3 phases at the top, right? There's 3
Yep,
phases.
so, depends on where you are. So on East Stafford, that's what we call open three-phase primary. And then if you go down, Union Street, you'll notice it's Hendrix, which is, or spacer cable. It's the same thing, it's still three-phase, but it's been scrunched up, it's highly coated, and it can deal with a pretty good-sized tree falling on it, without causing an outage. We still have to take the tree off, but it's less likely to have an outage.
Could you explain the triangles a little bit more?
Yep, so I was gonna get to that. So the triangles, those are risk trees as part of our hazard tree program. So each triangle represents a tree.
And the colors?
Yep, so the colors, that's how our workflow works, where when it's red, it means it's been identified. When it's yellow, it means permission attempted with the landowner.
What
When
was
it's
yellow,
green.
what?
Yellow means permission attempted,
Oh, yeah.
and then green means that the tree is ready to cut. We have permission.
So the pink, the scenic roads that have no triangles, there's probably no lines there.
Yes, where there's no red,
No,
there's no
No,
lines.
no triangles.
Yeah, and there's no triangles, then there's no hazard trees there.
So do you do anything along those roads, or you just
We would
drive
be
past?
trimming.
You can, you
Yep,
do
we
trim.
still have to trim. Yep, every single one of these segments of the line, we have to trim.
When are you planning to trim?
So we have to wait for mud season to come to an end. We
Yeah.
just got that lovely storm, we're almost done with it, and then now it's back.
Yeah,
So, depends on what the road agent is gonna do,
Yeah.
but I'm guessing with the way it's looking this year, it's probably gonna be towards the end of April, before we can even come in here.
So when you start, will you just go through do it all at one time? I mean, start.
We do the entire circuit, yep, we
So
trim
That
everything.
might take a month or 2 months or.
This circuit's, I believe, 37 miles long, so it's gonna take us probably about 3 to 4 months to trim it.
So it'll be all summer,
Yes, and it could go into next year as well. Like I said, Lyme is kind of Mars for us, so it's very hard to get resources over here. Yeah, depends how many tree crews I put on it, but
Right,
we'll be here pretty much most of the year.
right.
And who's your sub, your tree sub?
This year it'll be Aspen Tree,
Yeah.
those are the orange trucks.
those are the orange trucks, yep, Asplunda.
Yeah, they've been working on River Road in Orford this last 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, and that's a separate circuit,
That's separate.
yeah, that's a different circuit.
That's in
Yep.
Orford, yeah.
Yep, and then, we might have some cap jobs where we're putting like new poles in and stuff. That's separate from trimming, but we could be doing that as well.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How do you treat a road that is not scenic, different from a scenic?
That's a good question. So, in general, we don't really treat a scenic road differently than a regular road, but we're required to have a scenic road hearing because the road's been put under that certain, I don't know the word for it.
Protection.
Protection. So, that, it's meant to ensure that we can't go in there and butcher the road. So somebody at some point made this a scenic road, so we have these scenic road hearings. But we do all the same things on all the other roads. If a customer wants a consultation, they don't want us to get full spec, we work with them as well. So really, they're not treated any differently. Just scenic roads, we're required to have a scenic road hearing.
So if you do, if somebody asks for a consultation,
Yep.
that happens, somebody just comes and talks to them before you guys come to cut? Or do you do it at the time you are cutting?
Before we cut.
So they just have, somebody has to actually request that, and then somebody
So it has to
meets with
request it.
them
Yep,
before you cut, yeah, okay.
correct. Yep, we need permission. Lyme is actually, believe it or not, mostly easement. We actually have really good easement records, so most of it I could actually just trim. And that's at the arborist's discretion, and I don't like to do that, so I'd rather get permission from the landowners. But for safety concerns, if a safety concern does come up, I will pull easement.
So what if somebody hasn't requested a consult, but they come to cut, and then they come out, you know, at the time they're gonna cut it, they start cutting and they say, wait a minute,
Yep, so perfect, fine. Yep, so what you're kind of, leading into is, what we call the 45-day. So since the ice storms in '08 and '09, the PUC put into law that, most of those outages were caused by trees that should have been trimmed. So they put into law a statute that allows us to, we send those cards out, these cards that I, supplied you with, and we do not hear from a customer within 45 days of that stamped, we have the right to go in there and trim full spec. Now, if the customer comes out, what are you doing on my property, why you blah, 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 right? It happens all the time, cause people don't take the mail seriously and they just hang it out.
that's right.
You know, we stop, we're not just gonna keep going.
And they can discuss at that point.
We'll stop, we'll discuss, come up with a plan and go from there.
And that would be asphalt, it would probably be the guys from asphalt.
It would be the asphalt guys, and then I get a call, hey, Billy Smith came out on River Road and, you know, cocked the shotgun and said, get off my property. And I go, okay, I'll deal with it, and I believe it happens more often than you think. And then I go out there and I mediate the
And
situation.
that's just on scenic roads, or is that on all?
That's all roads.
Okay.
Yep, so what I'm trying to get here tonight is the town's approval to do the trimming, answer any concerns you guys have. I have had scenic roads in certain towns where they've asked me, you know, it's really beautiful along our stone walls, we like the way it looks, we do not want any ground cutting to happen. And I've had to just top cut all the underbrush. So you do have the option of requesting something like that,
You can't see the stone walls if you don't ground
you
cut.
know? Yeah, it depends on the town, everybody's different. I think it opens them up and exposes your stone walls better. So, that's what we're here for tonight, and then, you know, answer any questions. And then as far as the risk trees, those are trees that are outside the trim spec that we find are gonna fall into the lines, cause a, you know, disruption of the power, and we'd like to proactively take that tree out.
And that's every one of those triangles?
And that's the triangles, yep.
So there's a lot, yeah.
That's a lot of triangles.
Yep, we got about 250 trees that we wanna take out on the circuit this year.
Just on the,
Over the entire circuit, not on scenic roads.
on the
This-
whole line, yeah.
Yep, the scenic roads are actually, there's really not that much.
Because there's not power lines.
No, there's power lines, it's
Where am
just New Hampshire Electric Co-op. It's the other power.
Mostly on River Road.
Yeah, mostly on River Road.
There's
and-
one
and-
on Washburn Hill, and the one on Acorn Hill is behind a stone wall.
Yep.
So the one on Washburn Hill, is that right up against the road, or, cause there's some really big trees on that
Right.
road.
The sky's a smaller tree, it's
This one right here?
an
This one?
ash tree,
Uh,
yeah,
Okay,
just a 10-inch.
yeah.
So,
I have
do we have a
another,
picture of that one?
another vaguely
Scroll
related
down.
question.
Oh, let me
To
scroll
the bottom,
down.
I think, there's two.
Oh, it did not, let me scroll down.
So you can't,
It's okay, the 10-inch ash is gonna go down anyway, so it's, you know.
Did it go over?
Are you cutting all ash now, or?
Go over maybe, it's probably like the last, like on 404.
I think it's behind your Zoom thing up on the right. There you go.
Oh, so. I got it. Sorry,
Is it in the 3 dots?
How do I, are you able to?
Oops.
How do I hit?
So are you cutting all ash Just
Here we go, sorry
in
about that.
anticipation, you're,
You gotta turn off your mic, I guess.
Yeah, I turned it off.
Yeah.
I'm trying, we actually took pictures of the roads, the road trees.
I'm sure I checked earlier, and there were pictures, so.
It's okay, I mean, that one ash,
So to answer your question about ash, ash we are proactively taking though, even if they're healthy. They decline extremely fast and become very dangerous to cut. So we're actually proactively, even if they're healthy at this point.
so you're basically taking out all the ash that,
We are, if we find it's gonna fall into the lines.
right,
Yep.
if it's near,
Yeah, we reached the stage that the mature trees that you see now are all gonna be gone. Gonna be just like what happened with the chestnut and the elm. But the good news is they actually have, you never think Russia was gonna help us right now, right? But they are. There's Russian wasps that actually have populations in New Hampshire right now, that the state of New Hampshire brought in, that actually eat the EAV, and bring it down to a population that does not kill the tree. So, once that population builds up in New Hampshire, and, you know, all the Northeast, it's projected that we will have ash trees again.
yeah, maybe you should save some of the healthy ones.
So actually, and I actually have some of my property that the state has saved. There is a systemic that you can put in the tree. It's expensive, and it makes the tree toxic to the insect. And the state of New Hampshire has hidden, they will not tell you where they are, stands that they have protected
Yeah,
and put systemic in so that we have a seed source. So, yeah, so there's you know, unlike the chestnut, which obviously I'm sure we all know the chestnut story, yeah, pretty good plan has been put in place. I actually helped, I worked for the Division of Forest and Lands, and I actually helped cut down the mother tree, as we called it, that was in Concord, which was the first tree that we found with it infested. So, I actually worked very closely with that, and seeing how bad it's gotten in the last, believe it or not, western New Hampshire, actually got hit last.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, you think with the river and all the log trucks, it would have got brought over here, but
yeah.
just started really hitting us in the last 3-4 years. The last year being the worst.
They're driving through New York State, which is terrible, cause you look, it's all dead ash along the
Yep,
highways.
yeah, you'll see all the, what we call blonding,
Yeah.
that's when the woodpeckers scraping the bark off, trying to get to the
Gross.
insect.
So how long do they think that it'll take for the wasps to really start helping?
Well, the good news, so I actually know Kyle Lombard, who's the head of the Forest Health for the state. I don't think they have a number on it yet, but I do know that they were talking about the fact that we actually have usually they have to keep bringing the insect in, and they already have sustainable populations that they're actually taking from and spreading it in New Hampshire, because they're doing so well.
Yeah.
So,
Are they obligate borer, or is it, do they eat other things as well?
EAV? They
No,
do.
no,
No,
Oh,
the
wasps? I'm assuming they must eat more than just but I think their
'Cause that-
favorite
Always
is
the
EAV.
trade-off
That's
with the
always the
biological
danger, yeah.
control,
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure the state
Let's
looked
bring
into
in
that.
some rabbits and see how
Yeah,
that goes.
yeah.
So maybe if you didn't cut some of the really healthy ash now, they might survive, then maybe.
No, I can definitely say the timeline's not gonna work in favor of that.
We've
No.
got plenty of ash in the woods and on other properties that aren't in the right of way, so I think. we're-
But if you do wanna save your tree, you
Yeah.
can put a systemic in it, you can.
It costs like up to 150 and it lasts for 2 years,
Yep.
so tree's worth it.
Could you please look at, Shoestrap Road? I was just curious where the line goes. Washburn Hill, then
Oh,
Just south on River Road.
just south, come down, keep going south. There's Shoestrap right over, just in that corner right there. Does the line go all the way through?
No,
Shoestrap
shoots
yeah.
off to the left, to the
Yeah.
west.
See,
That goes right there.
so it ends?
Yep.
Okay.
Huh.
Yeah, you'll notice, we have these really weird segments, like right here and right there, well, there might be co-op.
No,
No,
it's
that
just
is-
houses,
There's
Okay,
nobody
just,
there.
yep.
long driveways with houses.
Oh, okay. But I have seen that out this way where there's like these like weird, like 3 spans of just random co-op. You're like, what?
Yeah.
So we actually,
I
through
find all
door,
those at 2 o'clock in the morning.
yeah, so through Dorchester Road, we actually feed co-op.
Yep.
And that actually feeds, like 26,000 people. So when that line pops, that's why I went so intense with Dorchester Road, cause that hillside was like Hamburger Hill, I don't know if you guys seen that movie, they just kept falling in, so we had to do what's called total tree height, and just take out every tree that was tall enough. Cause for quite a few years, probably 3-4 years, I'd been up there, you know, take this one, take that one, take, you know, and they just kept coming, so that's why we had to do that plan.
Randy, I had a question.
Yes.
Unrelated to this specifically, but what do you do if you see, trees hanging up in the lines, either power or communication cables? What's the right thing to do?
So, I mean, technically you can call 911,
Mhm.
and then they'll figure out who to call.
Okay.
But you can also, if you do know who the utility is, you can call the customer service
Oh, interesting, okay.
and call the emergency line, and then there'll be
Yep.
like a prompt for, oh, are you reporting an outage or a tree on the lines, and then go through there.
Okay, good.
Fortunately, it is a little automated, so it does take a few minutes to get through. So if you're looking for like a really,
No, it's
Immediate
just, you know, you're
response.
driving down and there's a tree
oh,
hung
absolutely.
up in the, and, you know, someday it's gonna cause a problem. So,
Yep.
Right,
Yep.
okay, good, so call the service.
Yeah, and you can put a, what's called a customer request in, where you're requesting a consultation if you're the landowner.
Oh, okay.
You can put a customer request in, then it comes to me, then I send it to her, she goes and looks at it. If I need to get involved, I get involved.
Sure. Okay.
And then,
Can you, zoom,
yep,
can you zoom in on the River Road?
which portion, the north portion or south?
The north portion, cause that was a scenic road, and there's
Yep,
a good number of trees that are coming down there, which.
yep, so
I
right
think
here
that's a-
is mostly on that really steep embanking. So they're not actually within the scenic road bounds, they're well outside of it. That just happens to actually be on River Road, and it's on that steep embankment.
So the line's not next to the road?
Yeah, you can actually see if I enhance enough here, you can actually see it's, you know, it's off the road quite a bit. And I was just driving up there and, you know, we're talking 40+ feet off of the right side of the road up the hill.
So
just
in
by
that
the
area,
bridge-
are you cutting everything from the edge of the road to the power lines?
So, there's two different cuttings, so one would be cutting for trimming. Yes, we'll be cutting everything as long as it's a full spec.
But you'll only be doing that along the lines, you won't be.
Along the lines, yeah,
Right,
no,
you
not
won't,
along
you
the
won't be
road.
doing it in the, if it's outside the road right of way, you know, you're doing it here on the line, the road is over here, you're not touching the
Nope.
trees on the road.
Nope,
I think
so
that's what
our,
you're-
so our,
Yeah, that's
our
what
trim
I'm saying.
zone is 8 feet to the sides of the
Yeah.
field phase.
Right.
So if you got a 3-phase line, 8 feet to the side of that line, 8 feet to the side of the other line, 15 feet above, and then all the way to the ground is what is the area that we're maintaining. Doesn't mean we're liquidation cutting that entire zone, that just means that's what we maintain.
Right, and then other trees that are tall enough to hit the,
Yeah, and then you get a tree outside that 8 feet,
it's tall enough to hit the line.
and that it's not in our trim spec, that's where we need to mark it with the ribbon and permission with the landowner separately.
But only the trees that are falling to your 4 dead, dying, diseased.
Yes.
Right.
Unless it's an ash, and then it's healthy, but we're taking out proactively.
I have a question
Yep.
for this property owner here.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to have the brush trimmed all the way to the ground.
Yep.
So what can she do to make sure that that doesn't happen? Assuming that you got your thing in the, you got a notification in the mail. and
Yeah.
Did you send it back?
I don't know,
She-
I was.
Well, either way, I'll remember.
Anyway, Tracy came today and we had a great walk up and down.
Yep,
And, yeah, I don't want all the brush
Yep.
cut.
yep, no, I remember your property last trim cycle, you worked with Frank Carell of
Oh.
Asplin Tree.
Yeah,
Yep, no, I remember, I have this weird memory, I remember all the customers. Yep, so I understand you don't want, full spec done, so.
right, and there's some very big trees that are, actually, they look like they're rotten
The
and they're dead.
triangles.
Yep,
But I asked Tracy if they could just take the top off and leave them, they're such good bird habitat.
Yep. So I do wild habitat trees, as we call them, or a wildlife statue. So what we do is we take the top of the tree down,
Yeah,
and we leave a statue that is below neutral, so that if that statue falls, it's not gonna hit our lines. We do also girdle the tree at the bottom if it's a deciduous, just to make sure it's not gonna sprout on the top. That way it actually truly is indeed, dead. And that's just with deciduous. We just go along with the chainsaw, we cut it, and then what it'll typically do is it'll sprout underneath the saw cut, instead of,
Well,
At the top of the tree.
I don't think you should do that to my trees. Just-
okay, well,
they
what we can do is.
die anyway.
Yep, so what we can do is, I can do a walk along with you and talk about each and every single tree and what we can do for options. And then, on properties like yours, what I will do is, what I offer is, I will actually be on scene
Yeah,
when the tree crews are there.
great.
Cause sometimes they don't listen to me, and it happens, so, and your property has history, I just drove past it today, it's very beautiful, don't wanna ruin it. But I also need to make it safe for
Yep.
the utility and keep people's
I
powers on, so.
understand.
Yep, yeah, so what I'll do is I'll set up a consultation with you.
Well,
Actually,
Tracy already consulted
Yep.
with me very nicely today, so
perfect,
that was great.
nice. Yeah, so we can, she can be there too, if you feel comfortable with that. We can
Well,
meet at some point
do you
and
think
talk
we
it all
need
over.
to, we need to talk about it again before you cut?
Yes, I won't do any cutting until we actually have permission,
Okay,
so,
okay,
no cutting will happen until we got permission.
good,
Um,
thank you.
yes,
The system works.
I try to make it work.
Yeah, thank
New
you.
Hampshire Electric Cooperative has
Yep.
has the same trimming.
I gotta be careful, cause I can get myself in trouble. I actually know the arborists very well, I went to the same school with them, we've known each other forever. They have a totally different trim spec, plan, everything. The co-op is mostly easement, and they're, not to speak for them in any way, but just to help you understand, they have a different trim spec. Theirs is like 15 feet to the sides. They cut the trees, everything, and they typically don't come back until about 10 years,
But
8 to 10 years.
But they also have the responsibility for scenic.
Yes, yeah, anybody.
Are they on the
Utility.
same cycle as you, or? what
That I
would be
can't
your
answer, I
inclination?
wouldn't know, I don't think they would be.
Okay.
I'm trying to think in the 15 years I've been here, if they've ever even come in to,
Yeah, they have a very long cycle.
I don't recall any of the, I've only done stuff for Eversource.
Typical is
Yep.
cooperative, typical, but the Acorn Hill, it stopped. Is that where New Hampshire Electric Co-op takes off? You
See that
Flint?
pink stretch that goes up right there?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
See that M on the right, just a little bit below that to the right? There's a feed that goes up the hill right there towards Acorn, catches it right on that corner,
Yeah.
and that runs the entirety of the rest of the town,
So that's all of that and,
all the way to Breck Hill.
Yeah, and then right here is where co-op is too. You'll actually see all the big transformers and everything.
Yep. And do you feed those transformers and then go back into Canaan and, or Enfield out? That line goes up along Baker Hill Road, or catches, it goes overland and then up to Baker Hill, along Baker Hill to,
Tyco,
no, it's the
Goose
Goose
Pond?
Pond and then into Hanover.
We stop right at Goose Pond.
Right, but I'm saying, that line from New Hampshire Electric Co-op, I'm trying to figure out if they feed from that way, or if you feed them.
No, they feed from a different area. You actually see there's a completely dead area right in between. One span, that's just totally dead, with no primary, so. They must be feeding it from somewhere else. I don't know their circuits out.
Yeah, okay,
but- yeah.
I'm curious, the board have been doing a lot of discussions about solar, and one of the things the solar companies like is being within 1,000 feet of a three-phase line. And so
Yep.
I was curious, just who feeds what.
Yep, well, you're not far from here.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Okay, so typically we take a vote, unless there's more questions.
So it's, need a motion from a board member to
so how
approve?
do we wind up being Mars? Where's the connection?
Oh,
Where do we
yeah,
connect?
so let me zoom out here.
Comes from the substation in Thetford.
So you see these areas right here? This is all Eversource, all this.
Yeah,
Those are different area work centers that are color coded.
yeah,
And then you have this whole dead area for us right here, that's all co-op.
yeah.
And then there's us. So that's why I call it Mars,
But
even though we're right here too.
So yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
like 5 miles.
Yep,
Okay,
So it's just, the area work center that takes care of you
yeah,
Newport?
is all the way down here,
yeah.
right about there.
So are we fed from the east, we're fed from East Thetford?
Right from,
Yep, so you're fed from,
Green Mountain Power.
our feed comes from Green Mountain.
Okay,
The bridge that's out right now in East
Yeah,
Thetford,
yeah.
that's where the feed is.
yep, good.
So most of your power loss has been from the supply,
Yeah,
because their lines are not very well taken care of. It used to be my lines, and I took care of that very well last cycle, and I've been pretty impressed with it. It really haven't had much. So the program does work, but unfortunately, we do get fed from Green Mountain there, so. Every time I see 17W1 popped, oh, loss of feed, and I know right where it came from, Green Mountain, unfortunately, so. And usually I come in from 91 and I can see all the lines and all the stuff touching the wires and everything. But now that bridge is closed, now I gotta come up 120 and it takes a little bit longer to get. It used to be a really quick trip for me, but now it takes quite a while. So this is we call this Esri, or field maps. Very useful. So tentatively, we plan on taking, I think it's around 250 trees off the entire circuit. The actual scenic roads, we're only talking barely even a handful that are actually within the scenic road right away. And just like the trimming, those have to be permissioned by the town and the landowner. If we get a denial from either or, we can't cut the tree. Now, the only difference with the trimming is because that 45-day stature, if you guys are giving us the approval, how do I wanna word this? As long as we get approval from you, and then we don't get contact from that customer, we'll be able to do the 45-day. So we will, some people may call you guys up and go, hey, why are they trimming? I didn't give you okay for this, and it's probably because they threw the mailer out.
they won't call us, they'll call him.
Yeah.
All right, that's,
Yep,
here's the number.
so,
me too.
I'm happy with every tree that goes down personally.
Yeah.
yep. And then, to answer your question too, there is a little bit of a difference with scenic roads versus regular roads.
Good.
Scenic roads, we can't cut anything over 6 inches in diameter. And then it becomes part of the hazard tree program, whereas regular roads, anything over 16 inches in diameter becomes a
Yeah,
unit.
that will save more of your brush.
Yes,
Yeah, that's right.
so, but I will plan to have a consultation with you.
Thank you.
You have her number and everything, obviously, right?
You get my voicemail? You got my mailer?
Yeah, I'd be happy to mail it in, I've got it right here.
We can check.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity,
Yes.
have you contacted everybody in town? I know I haven't been contacted.
So Asplund is going through the process of mailing out everybody, or stopping at your door and sending you
I got
one of these
contacted.
notifications right
I
there.
did.
I did. Yep.
Yep.
So I've got 3 properties and I've returned all 3 cards and haven't heard anything.
Oh, you already got the card and you returned it?
Yeah.
Does he
So you wouldn't
get
hear
in
anything,
touch
now,
via
you returned it,
email?
is it like a consult request, or?
Yeah.
Okay, you just haven't heard anything? I can certainly take down your information, or have Tracy take down your
Let me
information,
give you my
at the end
email.
of the meeting or something, and
It's
then we
Jenny.
can follow
I
up on that.
contacted Tracy, I just emailed her, just the
NYJ.
email they sent, and she was like back to me the next day.
NYJ44.
And just so you guys understand too, the contractor, we're not just going off the contractor's word,
Yeah,
Why?
they have to
J
stamp that with a date,
44
to be
at
legal.
Gmail.
And I get provided the PSR, which shows every single customer, when they were contacted, and
I tried to
everything. So
check
I am
my
double
phone
checking to make sure
Well, I
before we
appreciate
pull a
that.
45-day.
I really appreciate that. So with that said, I really appreciate the outreach and the understanding you give to the landowners. I'll make a motion that their request to trim and cut trees along the scenic roads be approved.
I just have, so if we give permission, then are we giving permission for all the hazard trees also?
We can do it separate or we can do it together,
'Cause it's
but I
hard-
do need permission
I mean, it's kinda
for
hard for us
both.
to know,
We don't know.
we don't know.
The
about hazard
landowner
trees.
has to, that's like, I got a request for a tree to come down, it's not even marked, and so I said, well, I can't give you permission to cut down a tree I don't even know about. So I've done that, but we're not gonna, are you proposing that we should go around and look at each one of those hazard trees?
No, that's what I mean, that's what
Well,
I mean.
you know, it's like, we can't do that for
Right,
everybody.
right. Yeah, no, I
So,
understand,
I mean, Jennifer found her way here,
right, so it's really up to the landowner.
it is.
And it has to be permission with both.
Yeah,
So
and we
just
don't-
by you giving me permission doesn't mean,
Right.
oh, I'm gonna go cut everything now.
I mean, I
They
really
gave me
see the
permission.
planning board is the opportunity for there to be a public hearing. We don't control what landowners say about their trees with the power company. We just,
We're just
yeah,
giving
yeah,
overall.
we
And just so you
provide
understand
forum.
too, say that same property owner wanted to take that tree down,
They could
they
do
would
it,
not need to have a public
That's
hearing or
exactly
anything.
right.
They could just do it. It is literally just for the town.
and.
So even if you guys wanted to do something
Yeah.
on that road,
Yep, yep,
you would have to hold
Yeah.
your own scenic road hearing.
yep,
So it's literally just for the utility
yep, and the town.
and the town.
Yep,
Okay, I'll second.
okay.
Okay, and so just for clarity, it's a permission to do both trimming and the hazard trees?
And their tree cutting as they requested
Yeah,
on
right.
On the
scenic road.
scenic roads. Okay, all those in favor?
Oh, I can't vote, but
Thanks, everybody.
No, thank you very much, and we'll be in contact with you.
I'll have another hand and
And I don't want you leaving yet.
No, I know which one we're gonna.
Yes,
talk
yes.
about.
Yeah, well, you know, there's,
Those circles,
everybody's situation's different.
Yeah.
I was the same way they came in, I said, just take everything and anything that's large enough for firewood, leave.
Yeah.
I have all
Okay.
these old dead trees, and so when I had, cause I rerouted the power line, and my neighbor called, "You didn't have them take down the old dead trees?" And I'm like, "No, Cynthia, I didn't," you know, cause they're good for wildlife, and they didn't feel like they needed to come down, so I caught hell for not having you guys do work that my neighbor wanted on my
Donated
property.
woodpeckers, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. So the other thing I wanted to bring to the attention of the board, I have one property owner that has been an issue for us for quite a few trim cycles. And it's gotten to the point where it's a safety concern. And unfortunately, I do not have easement, and it ends right before her property. So, right here,
Can we guess who it is?
right by the school on East Efford, there's a white house right here, right across from the
Ben
town.
Killen's old house.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
Glenn, what is her, she's
Bird
Right.
wildlife.
Rehabilitate.
St. Francis.
Yeah.
yep, so right here, we have about 3.5 spans of 34.5. I just checked on it again today, and we have stuff actually presently touching the lines. Once we have a growing season this year, it is gonna become very dangerous. In fact, right now, it's actually pretty dangerous. We have a thing called MAD, which is minimum approach distance. So most of that, I actually can't even have my tree crews cut now because it's so close to the 34.5. They actually have to be 2 foot 6 inch from the 34.5 is the standard. Otherwise, they could get energized when they're trying to cut the vegetation. So this has reached a point where I'm gonna have to have the line department involved when we are able to trim this. Might end up having to be a controlled outage for a brief period of time, which is not gonna make my bosses happy, or anybody else. I contacted.
That's feeding, that's your major feed line in.
So that is the feed for the circuit, so, when that goes out,
That's everything.
that's everything. So the only part of the circuit that would actually still be live would be River Road, because there's another fuse right there. And all the other customers would be out. So it's the entire circuit. So it'd be just like when you guys lose, the feed from Green Mountain. You'd have like 17 customers on, the rest are kaput. So, this customer had a bad experience with one of our contractors probably 10 years ago, and will not allow us to cut. I've tried to go to the door, she will see you, acknowledge you, and not open the door. So I wanted to bring it to the attention of the town, I brought it to the attention of the fire department, I'm actually on Alsted Fire myself. And, you know, I was looking at it from a fire perspective today. She's got propane tanks right there, the seaside is very close to all that vegetation that would catch on fire. And then you got a school, very close by to there. So I find it to be a huge safety concern. And, you know, just because you're not seeing sparking and arcing does not mean it's not dangerous. If a kid or anybody were to touch the tree that is touching that 3-phase, You just completed the circuit and you're gonna get energized. So,
I'm wondering if using some social capital of people that she knows to, town authority, just personally speaking with her might work better than trying to, up the force.
If phone calls were returned.
yeah, they don't get returned.
She walks by my house every night, pretty much. They walk in the morning, they walk the dog on the common, so they're out and about.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, somebody else has to walk their dog the other way. They've got a little dog in the morning, and then in the evening, they walk down Market Street to the bridge.
So as a utility, we're more than willing to work with them.
I don't know.
We don't need to ground cut, she can keep her screen, but we can't have stuff touching the lines. And we can't have it where we need to come back every year or two to keep that.
So ultimately, you can do it even without her permission.
I cannot. No,
Ever?
So I can during a storm event.
We just had a good opportunity.
It wasn't close enough.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's beyond MAD now, it's beyond that minimum approach distance. So the line would have to be de-energized, so it would have to be a complete outage during a storm situation where I have an available crew. And then they could, trim contact, but that's only going to grow right back very quickly. It's not like we're gonna trim 8 feet to the sides during a storm, we can trim hard contact. Thankfully, the lines are coated, it's not bare wire, because we'd already be having problems by now. But it is a very unsafe situation.
So she did respond to the 45-day, within the 45 days and said, no, you can't do anything?
Actually, typically what she does is she doesn't respond to anything, and then we show up to cut, and then that's when they're outside, and they stop us.
So
She
how
doesn't
many
respond to
times has
anything.
this happened?
This will be going on 3 cycles now. We used to be on a 3 to 4 year cycle, now we're on like a 5, so,
It's been like 12.
I've been with the company for.
And she won't negotiate, she won't?
There's no negotiation, she won't allow anybody to do any cutting. And she had a bad experience, I believe it was with Asplund, where they cut some of her arborvitaes, and she just won't allow us to cut, so.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of hope. I mean, there was another tree that was near the school that a lot of people wanted to trim, and she wouldn't allow that either.
Yep.
So I don't have a lot of hope that she's gonna change her mind.
Yep. So that's why I'm coming to you. Got the fire department involved and stuff too, because it's a fire danger, it's electrical danger. You do got the school.
What's the role for the planning board?
The planning board has no authority to
Right.
really, the only thing I can think of is select board, is a,
Public health.
yeah, to at least try to get some conversations going. But I don't even know if the select board has the authority to say, you're going to do this.
Well, it's a conversation, we can't force her,
Right.
but this is a public health problem. In the
Yeah.
context of emergency management planning, I mean, that seems to be, like, it's gonna inconvenience a whole lot of people if that goes.
Yeah,
And-
26,000 people.
Okay, so it's a whole lot of people are gonna be in an emergency situation because they're not willing to have their trees trimmed. So it
So-
seems like an emergency
Yeah.
preparedness.
So
kind
if
of thing.
something happened and one of those trees did come down, then could you, at that point, could you go in and just, as, you know, to fix it, just cut it?
Again, we have to be careful. I can, once it's on my equipment, I can absolutely remove the tree. Put the lines back up. She cannot stop me from doing
Right,
that.
right.
But yeah, I can't just, oh, we're gonna do a little bit more trimming.
You only have to.
And unfortunately, it's 3.5 span, so even if I were to do that for the next 20 years, my whole career, maybe I'd get it trimmed at that point, but it's already gonna be grown back where I cut it before. And like I said, we're willing to work with her, we're not trying to be the big bad utility, trying to work with her. I can have a consultation, just like I'm gonna have with her. Very easy to work with, I'm not a mean guy or anything. But when it comes to safety concerns, I really do draw a line in the sand. You know, I see a school right there, her house is in danger, 26,000 people out of power. You know, the fire season has been getting more intense as the weather is changing. I'm not gonna talk about climate change or anything, but the weather is changing, it's getting more extreme. I was on more forest fires last year than I'd ever been, and they're getting bigger. They used to only be,
So let's think about what the social structure is
Well,
here. that we
who's
could-
our emergency management?
Isn't it Michael
This
Henry?
is Michael Hensley.
Okay, well,
He-
we
And
should get
he's got, he was trying to help the bear in Hanover, so she's gotta have a good idea that he's in favor of all the sort of things that she's in favor of. Maybe he could
Well,
talk
I
to
mean,
her.
it's it's a public
Yeah, I would-
safety.
If wildlife is your concern.
Yeah.
I mean, this also, I would think, potentially poses a issue for the wildlife
Well,
that
her
would
whole
also
house
come
could
into
go down.
contact.
Would-
and
would-
The other thing I wanna offer
It
too
might help.
is, we have a program called 30 Foot and Under, where we will actually plant compatible vegetation underneath the lines. So if she's worried about her screening, and I've never had the opportunity to even get this far in talking with her, cause she just doesn't regard us at all, she just, ignores us. There are some options.
Would any other arborist or tree trimming company handle this?
Besides
You know,
Asplund, I guess.
Besides, well,
Yes.
besides somebody who works routinely on the lines.
Yes, so I
That's-
am also willing to bring a completely different contractor in,
Mhm.
than Asplund, because I understand her bad experience was with Asplund.
Right.
One bad apple spoils the batch, right? But I do have other contractors that I could bring up here. I don't know if you guys remember the big willow tree across, on Dorchester Road. There's that hotel right there, was it Annie's Hotel or whatever, right at the intersection of Union and, Dorchester? There's like a little hotel and a little restaurant right there.
No, it's
Um,
the Lyme
Lyme.
area.
Line in, line in.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Ariana's
Oh,
restaurant.
Ariana's, yes.
Ariana's restaurant
Yep.
in the Lyme
There
area.
was a large, willow right
Oh,
there,
right,
and some other trees, and that was northern tree that came in, cause they have a crane and all that type of stuff. So there's options, but we can't even get to the discussion part of even showing her any options, because, and it's just gotten to the point where it's a huge.
I mean, that might be at least the first thing to suggest. I don't, she
But
obviously
she won't
have to
even,
pay
won't
for
even
it.
talk to him, it's kinda hard to.
Yeah, but I can't.
Right,
That's why I'm
but
trying to think of,
someone,
get people in authority who she knows,
Yeah.
like Mike Hensley.
I'll work with Michael.
I think that's, and, yeah, I don't know if Ben has any sway with her.
This is probably gonna be all come, we'll see if we can get going.
The other thing I can do is I can involve the PUC, the Public Utility Commission, this is who makes us do all this stuff.
Yeah, I was just thinking,
And I can
Go the
reach
people
out to them, but,
first. I
Use,
typically try not to, because
use
that
the
can get,
social capital first before
that
you
can get a little,
Yeah, exactly.
a little intense.
That really
and I-
sets
and
the
I-
walls.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I
yeah.
don't wanna have to do that to her, so, I'm trying to proactively get it taken care of without having to go through that process.
Another question, you said if there was a controlled outage to de-energize that line, what's the duration of that? Is that 30 minutes?
Depends on.
I mean, it's 3.5 spans that haven't been trimmed in over 10 years, it's not gonna take a few minutes.
So it's
My
gonna-
guys have to do it safely, and then,
Oh, yeah, no
and then of
kidding.
course, they're dealing with, now it's in the equipment, and you gotta not damage the equipment, and
Mhm.
she's definitely not gonna let us flat cut, so now you gotta pull all the trees through other trees, it's be quite a few hours, so.
Okay.
Getting a controlled outage is really not an option, cause it would be too long, there's no way to backfeed it, there's no J switch that we have or anything that we can.
So, but it would be hours? It would-
Yes,
it's
it
okay.
would be
That-
hours.
That's the number I needed.
Yeah.
It's not 15 minutes and just.
No,
hold
I
your
wish
breath.
it was,
Yeah.
I wish this was only one limb we were talking about, I
Okay,
just had
okay.
one limb to cut, but, yeah, unfortunately, it's about 3.5 spans.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
a
everybody
tough-
understands 34.5, like, he said that earlier, just like if you, like, I don't know if people understand
It's
the
3,400,
a little more.
34,500 volts, yeah, right.
That is the highest voltage that we do on distribution.
Make real pretty colors when it darks out.
Well, I mean, their house is really at risk, I mean, if they like their house.
Yep, so,
That is kind of a safety thing for them, which maybe Hensley could communicate
So,
as
yeah,
well.
get the select board and Hensley to start working that side of it,
Yeah, good luck.
help us out.
Well, in the context of our emergency management planning,
Right.
we discovered that this power line
Yeah.
is, could go out and your house is at risk and something needs to happen, I mean, to frame it like that.
Yeah, well, Yeah, that's the way to start, but I don't, not to sound too negative, but I think she may at some point have to, you have to bring in the good, big guns at some point, maybe, but we'll see.
And then like I was saying with the change in weather and the dry seasons are staying drier longer, it is quite a fire hazard as well. And, I don't know if you guys saw the news, 2 years ago, we had a very large fire, up in Cornish. And it spread super fast. It was, I think it got up to almost 9 acres or something that burned. And it actually got into right under the transmission lines. When those start getting hot and start leaking, that's bad. So, I've kinda got to see it on both ends, cause I am in the fire department too, so I'm not just talking about this, I've actually seen it happen. And it's, you know, we all rely on power, and it seems like this mystical thing that goes through those lines, and it's not dangerous, but it's actually, it can be very dangerous if mishandled, so.
Well, we'll do as much as we can, or whatever we can to talk to her.
And that's all I was asking for, I just wanted to bring it to, you know, and then also,
We can't do it.
Well, when I say we,
We're asking Aaron to talk to Hensley and.
Is there any other spot? That's the only one that I knew of last time we spoke.
the only other spot was actually her property,
Yeah.
has gotten extremely close, and that's actually bare wire out there. That doesn't feed as many people, I think it's like 23 people it feeds over there, but of course, it's still a safety concern
Right.
that I'd like to, so I will work with her, I think she seems
She's
to,
very reasonable.
yeah, she seems
And the
reasonable,
section
so
north of that, they're all greens on the hill, that means they're all lit.
they're all
so
ready to go,
good to
ready
go.
to cut, yep.
Cool.
Yep, so that was really the only trouble spot, is that one spot right there at the junction.
yeah.
I'll talk to the select board members as I get them to say, hey, there is an issue that needs
Yep.
dealing with, and try to get it on.
Can we get on for, it's next Thursday, right? There's a meeting?
Yep, I'll talk to Dina tomorrow to,
I have to be there anyway for other stuff, so let's do it. Y'all come for that.
And the other thing I understand, sometimes, when you're working with a customer like that, you know, say I show up, he shows up, it becomes very, oh God, there's so many people, so sometimes it's better to just show up with one person. But I'm more than willing to meet with him and go there and, you know,
yeah, well, I-
very peacefully explain the situation.
I think Mike tries, our emergency management director is, can be a very calm, easygoing person, and very easy to deal with, so, it might be that he can just approach her and say, hey, we got a problem, can we talk to, see what we can do, and that may be enough to at least get the conversation going.
Yep, and that's why I'd like, at least the conversation to start going.
So,
Cause I don't think she understands
and she may not.
what's at stake there.
Yeah.
In her own home too, looking at it from a firefighter's perspective, you know, sitting there looking at it,
Well,
okay,
you
2
look-
Eastern propane tanks right there.
With all the underbrush
Leaves, underbrush,
and dead stuff that's in there, I mean, you can't see from the road into the property from there, it's so thick.
no, it's gonna go right up the side of the house, super quick.
Yeah.
Probably built in the 1800s, probably doesn't even have fire blocking in the walls or anything. You know, so, and it happens awfully fast, I mean, people cooking with their grill on the porch, I've seen that get bad real fast. So, yeah, no, I just wanted to bring it to the attention of
See
the
if we
town.
can get,
Okay.
You need to get one of those blankets like the Coven Ads.
Oh,
All
They actually work very well.
Do they? Cause
They work very
I
well.
tell you, they're effective ads.
Yep, I have them in my house, ready to go, my wife's cooking.
Do you?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You have them for your
Gotta have it
car?
ready to go.
Do you have a six-pack?
Actually, they sell them, yeah, they sell them all kinds of packs, different
Yeah,
sizes.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, they work really well. Yeah, unfortunately, we have used them at my house, it wasn't me.
Great.
All right.
All right,
Thank
well,
you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you guys have any other questions, now that we can all breathe, the bad part's done, right? Any other questions at all? Okay,
I just wanted to catch up with Tracy.
yep,
for a
yeah, we
second,
can
just
do
give her-
that, and, yeah, so, did you guys need any money for holding this? Some towns require us to pay.
I haven't gotten the bill yet, I had to do notification through the,
Paper?
Yeah, for the
Paper.
newspaper,
Yep.
yep. That's just let me know whatever that was, and we'll write you a check.
Yep.
You have my email, so.
Yep, I
send
have
it to that,
your
and-
card, so is that?
Yep.
Yep, your,
I could not
Yep.
find your card for the past, like, month.
I left some right there.
Yeah, like a month ago, I'm like, I gotta get ramped up on this before the growing season,
Yeah.
so.
Yep,
So,
and that, you just hit the head on the nail too, something else I'm gonna explain. Last year, we had the most intense growing season that we've ever had, where stuff grew almost 2 to 3 years worth,
All the rain.
from all that rain. So, with the weather changing, it's very,
but you don't know now what's gonna happen. You know, it's-
and we can't tell, but what I do know is that we do need to at least get our spec, or something that we think is gonna last, you know,
Good.
4 to 5 years, and, then we can go from there. Yeah,
Okay.
that's all I have. I don't know if Tracy, did you have any questions for the town? Okay. All right, perfect.
And if you need anything from us, you know, contact the people and, you know, let me know and I can get you contact information if I get it or.
Okay.
All right, perfect.
Great.
Well, thank you for having us. It's my first, I've actually been in Lyme quite a bit, working here over the years, but I was never actually in the arborist role. So I kinda moved up the ladder, and it's fun to be here at this role, so.
Trying to think who the person was before.
Dave Crane.
Dave Crane, thank
Yep,
you.
that was
It
my,
sounded like
that was my training.
You
Dave
lived
Crane,
next door
yep.
to this person.
Yep, I worked with him for a long time.
Oh, no, I
Yeah,
had
he was
to,
a,
talk to him
I think he was
today.
32 years or something, I think. if I
Yeah, so I
remember
live on the
that.
corner of Goose Pond Road.
Actually, just saw him a couple days ago. Yep, nice
So
guy.
we've got
Yep, very nice
offices
guy.
on Goose Pond Road and also from Grant Brook all the
All
way
right.
to Hanover.
So I consider that permission, and we'll,
Yep, you,
So,
that's what I'm,
yeah,
I'll,
I'd love to.
From Eversource.
if I can get back an email too, just send it.
yeah, what I'll probably do is, I'll write up a notice of
Maple Leaf
decision.
Farm.
Document
Got
and
maple
have,
trees and.
whoever is elected tonight as the chair sign it and then I can.
Oh, yeah, you
send
guys
it.
got the voting
Maple
funds
trees
tonight.
Yeah, so we'll, I'll,
That wasn't, that wasn't.
I can do a scanned copy of that to you and that way
Okay,
that's
well,
official.
take down
Yep.
your contact info, and
Okay.
next time I'm up here, I can meet you.
Sure.
And then hopefully we'll see the crews sometime after bud season. I'll have to talk to the road agent and stuff and see when that's,
Yeah, he's,
it's hard telling not knowing it.
Yeah, he has
We
no
were
clue
almost
at the
done
moment.
with it, it was
Yeah.
almost done, and then,
hopefully then once this melts, everything will firm.
how much,
up.
snow did you guys end up getting up here?
About 43. down to
20 or
Yeah, I got about 2.5 feet in my area, yeah, and it's
Crazy.
pretty much gone.
Yeah, I'm down to about 8 inches.
Okay.
Yep, in the shade.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all you
Yeah.
need.
Yeah,
Well,
there's
number-
not really
This fluffy
frost.
light stuff
Yeah,
that came
6
down and
months.
just
Yep.
compacted right down.
Absolutely.
And,
4207.
Yeah, there's not much or any frost
Sure.
in the ground, I don't think, so it's
No.
gonna soak in.
Last name is Mengi, M-E-N-G.
So I wonder,
Okay.
We usually get
Is
those
it-
on
I
Instagram.
recognize your name, I remember.
That's
Spot.
You might
Okay.
have to turn off the screen sharing
Okay.
first.
trying to put more
I'll look forward
information
to
out there.
catching up with you.
That works.
Listserv or whatever.
Because you're
when
still-
These guys are coming, cause, you know,
That's
there's
you,
so
not
many
me.
people that don't even pay attention, or
That
don't
would
even
be-
know what's going on.
That's a good idea. Dave could do that.
Well,
You could coordinate when you know that the folks are coming to town, just opposed to the listserv, the way that Jordan does when the assessor is going around.
They're gonna be here for 3 months or more,
Yeah,
so
but
it's,
just when they're about to start.
Yeah.
You know, when it's mud season's done and.
yeah, if you can let me
guys are-
know before they start, there's a listserv in town that I can email and I'll just put it out that
Okay.
your crews are gonna be working in the
Yep.
area and,
And correct me if I'm wrong, you guys do pretty much shut down every road, right? It's not just the ones that are posted, or?
well, pretty much all the roads get posted.
Yeah,
so-
okay, that's why I remember.
And the thing is, you have to be careful, a lot of roads are state roads. So you have Dorchester Road, East Thetford Road, North Thetford Road, those are all state roads.
Yep.
And so the state posts those.
Okay,
And so, they may lift, because they may lift it on the paved sections of those roads earlier than, Scott lifts it on the dirt
Yep.
roads in town.
okay.
That reminds me, I have a question
Sure.
actually about that. So I don't know, Randy, if you're still connected and can.
I'm not, no, I'm shutting down.
Okay,
What are you looking for?
I think it's by 5 Brook Lane. It's off of the 10, Dartmouth
Mhm.
College Highway. And I talked to the homeowner at 5 Brook Lane, and it didn't belong to him, the trees didn't belong to him. And he suggested that it might belong to the state. It's a vacant parcel. It's not
Is
ours
it
on it.
right, let's slow
That's the
down.
parcel that they just worked on, they did that bridge, the culvert,
For Grant Brook?
Yeah, I think that's a parcel. right
Yeah, I'm
there.
pretty sure that's state.
Yeah.
Okay, I sent them something in the mail. Okay. Alright.
You might talk to, it's the DOT District Two is the people who manage that. And the other, if you look out, just NHDOT District Two as a Google search,
Yeah.
it'll come up with a web page for them that has all the contact information.
Yes, I was working with DOT on another thing. I think Mark Ross is his name, so I can ask him about that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And who does Route 10? That's a dumb question. Who, you guys
State.
do Route 10 too?
The road or the lines?
The line, I mean, you
The
trim.
lines we do, we don't do the road.
But it's not scenic, so.
Come on.
No, I meant you trim on Route 10.
We do, yeah, we
We've
own
got some lines along the highway.
quite a portion of
Aren't
Route
they
10.
trimming in Hanover right now?
Yep.
Yes.
And then that switches over to go-up.
Right
At some
about
point.
by the dip, anything north of the dip is go up.
What's the
roughly.
dip?
Going north on Route 10, we go, that little,
Yeah, right where that river road comes out,
Uh,
the south end of
it's,
it, a little
above-
bit further down.
where-
above North Thetford Road,
With
go
no-
through
North
Kimball's
Thet-
Corners, go down the dip by Colgan's. North of that is pretty much
Okay. Yeah.
getting into New Hampshire Electric Co-op.
Goose Pond.
And Goose
So that's
Pond's
going
south,
south.
yeah, south
And then
end.
Goose Pond's the other end of us.
Yeah. Huh.
Good.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you, Randy.
we're happy here in Mars,
So
thank
if
you.
you need anything, I'm here.
I don't want you to think that it was bad saying Mars, it's just, you're far away.
Get anything you need.
Yeah,
Venus.
I don't want that to be perceived wrong, it was just,
No.
you guys are far
It's
away
not.
from us, so.
Nothing wrong with Mars.
No,
Venus, yeah.
that's always Mars would probably be better than this planet to live on, where things are going, huh?
Yeah.
So the minutes.
Oh, I shouldn't say that on live TV, oops.
The minutes are,
Yeah, the
I wasn't
minutes.
here, and I'm listed as present,
Oh,
and then I think that
Nice
there's,
meeting you all.
Thanks for coming by.
then I think that there's a negative missing out.
I'm like, maybe he'll remember, I'm on the fire department.
Allowed uses.
Yep.
commercial uses,
Oh, yeah.
Storage units are
Yeah.
not allowed.
not allowed.
and somewhere along the way,
Which made
We're
me
almost ready
think,
to-
you know, what is Steve Small doing, Rob Meyer with their arena where they're renting out spaces for storage of, I mean,
it's not a business use. It's an accessory use to the property.
I see.
Well, I would say it would be a home occupation, not an accessory use, because that's not a traditional.
So I was wondering,
So,
I was just wondering whether we wanted to add something to the effect that under the present zoning, there would be allowed 2 more buildings on that. I mean, it would be more, is that correct, David? That Rusty could put 2 more?
It's not the number of buildings, it's the coverage.
Well, there's several things going on in here, and I tried to not put a lot of information in that, it's an informal discussion, I don't want somebody to come back and if plans changed and said, the planning board said this, you know, it's,
I guess so, I just thought it would be.
Yeah.
Keep it nebulous.
Right, well, in fact, though, I did send a proposed wording back to David. And it got kind of long, so I wrote it out, but maybe I can read it and we can see. The board discussed with Mr. and Mrs. Keith plans to develop their property, this first paragraph is the same. Property at 34 Pleasant Street, currently they have a single-family home on the property, they would like to add 2 or 3 more under planned development provision of the zoning ordinance. I then added a phrase, because a planned development requires some commercial use, then it goes into what it said, the board discussed the possibility of creating storage units on a proposed, if proposed bond. The planning board and zoning administrator noted that the storage units was listed as a permitted use in a table for.
Not listed.
Okay,
Not
okay, that's good too.
That's the problem.
Was
yeah.
Right.
not, and then it was noted that an office conversion might be possible. Then I added 2 more sentences. The board also discussed the maximum gross floor area allowed in the Lyme Common District is 6,000 square feet. And then the last is, in addition, the board discussed the fact that the lot coverage in the Lyme Common District includes the footprints of buildings plus the area of any driveways, and that the maximum lot coverage allowed in any single lot in the Lyme Common District is 12% of the parcel.
That sounds like too much. You're citing the zoning ordinance, and you don't need to do that, you just go as per the zoning ordinance, you know, or something, you shouldn't.
And it's not floor area, it's lot coverage.
Well, there's, gross floor area is 6,000 square feet. And then lot coverage is the,
12%.
is this 12%, which comes out to 7,800 square feet.
Well, no, the 6,000 square feet is the maximum
Lot coverage.
lot coverage.
Yep.
So
That's-
let's
there's-
just say as per the zoning ordinance and not
Yeah,
put
'cause
numbers in.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think as David said, it gets too common, it's too.
No, I agree, but I was just
Yeah,
Okay.
being
yeah,
clear, it's,
yeah.
maximum lot coverage is 6,000 square feet.
In Lyme Common districts, nothing should be over 6,000 square feet, even if the numbers, and so,
Good. So I would still request that it says because a planned development requires some commercial use, then the rest of that paragraph makes some sense, because otherwise it was a little surprising.
Did you say requires some commercial use and must conform with other standards in the zoning ordinance or something like that, so that we
Yes.
don't lose your intent, but we don't
Yep,
wanna
okay,
misquote.
Yeah, that's
all right, good.
The other thing I questioned was the sentence, it was noted that an office conversion might be possible. I know we talked about that, but I still don't quite understand what that means. Because
Is
right
that-
from the get-go, you can't convert from the very beginning, can you? I mean, you have
well,
to
there is
have an
no,
office
Well,
it's
for
not
a
an
number of
office.
years.
well, no, you'd have to have the building, but under conversion, there is nothing in there other than a 5-year limitation on putting in extra housing units. You have to have plumbing and sewer and such in the building. There is no time limit on when you can do a conversion.
So conversion from what to what?
You would be
Storage.
converting a open space to an office,
That's not a conversion.
where you're converting,
No, conversions are when you change the use of a structure.
or part of it.
Right.
Okay, well,
I'm just not sure what this really does
I
for
wasn't
the
there, so I don't
discussion,
know what that
so
was about, so,
Yeah, I'm trying to
I
remember.
suggest we delete it, but.
Yeah, cause why was Rusty converting anyway, wasn't he just?
Well, it's because you're not allowed
You needed
to
the
have a
commercial
new
use.
office. You can convert an existing space to an office in the Lyme Common District. You can't build a new office.
What? Even in a planned development?
no, it's part of like trying to enable people with big old houses to be able to put the space in those houses to some
Right.
reasonable use without them then tearing down the house. It's
Right.
just to give them some options with the space, so that's why that was there.
But-
Building new offices, I mean, at the time when the zoning was written, it would mean, oh, now we've got 45 Lime Road, or, you know, that kind of thing coming in to our common area. So the point was to try to keep our existing structures.
Is an office a commercial use?
Yes.
I would say yes.
So if a planned development has to have a commercial use, but you can't build an office, this is making my head explode, sorry.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either, you couldn't, if you're doing planned development, you can't make part of it an office, is it?
No
That's your
offices are
commercial
allowed
use?
in the Lyme Common District. It's only
Oh,
conversions.
and that's right, Lyme Common District, okay.
So if Rusty built a house and
You could have a
He has a
restaurant.
house there.
it built another house.
Nope, you would have to convert an existing,
He built another residence, and then at some point converted that to an office, that would satisfy the commercial requirement for a planned development.
yes.
Right,
Whew,
and I think that's what he went away with. The
Yeah.
main problem that he had was the cap on the area,
lot coverage.
Right.
the lot coverage.
Lot coverage, yeah.
And there was actually some mention that we were gonna check something. Do you remember that? whether the 6,000 was a hard number or was trumped by the 12% or something
Well, the
like that.
6,000 is a hard number, I can guarantee you that.
Okay,
Yeah.
And that included driveways.
And the driveways.
and that included driveways.
Can you
And
go
parking.
to the zoning board and get a variance? Is that a,
You have to prove that there's a hardship. And the hardship is basically you have to prove that you can't do something that all your neighbors can. And to say, I can't do this, but yet, he can, she can, they can, okay, that's a hardship because the zoning is preventing you from doing it. To say, I can't do this because the zoning, but yeah, none of my neighbors can do it either, that's, pretty hard to,
Yeah, it's hard to get a variance. Special exception is a lot easier.
I see,
Variance is not easy.
I see. I see.
you just need, proving the hardship is the,
Right.
Yeah.
Is a workshop a commercial use that you're allowed to build a new one of?
I don't think workshop is the use.
No,
So
I
this
don't
would,
think so either.
this could come under what we change in the housing,
Could be.
it could be, I mean,
Yes.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
In the Lyme Common District, yeah.
right.
it could be however you may wanna put elsewhere. I mean, it's up to the board to, talk to the town, see what the town wants to.
Well, I think I think we need to go on, I mean, and get our housing ducks lined up. We don't really need to talk to anybody until we have something to say,
Yeah.
how's this?
Right.
Yeah, cause
Right.
we've done surveys and we just need to not get off the can, but get with it.
Well, there have been
This-
housing surveys?
No, but we did survey not too long ago, and we, well, how long ago was that?
Well, the
10 years?
LCDC was,
Yeah, quite a
well,
Yeah, that was more,
that was 3 years ago.
was that 3 years ago?
It
Seems
was
like-
pre-COVID.
That's like longer than
4
that.
years.
That's
Oh,
4
yeah,
years.
no, okay, I was at least
Yeah.
3 years
Yeah,
ago.
at least
That's
3
4
years.
years.
Four or 5 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And.
2019, yeah. Yeah, so we're 2014.
And what was that? Was that the housing inventory?
We did a housing inventory before, but that was not, no, we had a big discussion about rezoning parts of town and where it's appropriate to have commercial and other residential development.
Can I steer the conversation back
Yes,
to
yes, let's
finishing
get back
off
to
the
minutes.
minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to,
Sorry.
but,
So
Okay, so
somebody
do we
made a
know?
motion to
We voted,
No,
we
I-
voted and approved something.
approve with, but with this amendment, so,
I didn't, there was a lot of talk of
Oh, yeah.
deleting some and
David
adding.
needs to get the amendment, yeah.
Right.
So what is,
So I guess I would like to start the second paragraph because the plan development requires some commercial use. The board discussed the possibility and then go into the second paragraph of the existing minutes. Then the board also discussed what did we discussed limits of both gross floor area as well
no,
as.
just say conformance with the standards in the zoning ordinance. Don't.
I
be
think that's a good
specific.
way to say it, yes.
Yeah.
okay, so I get the first part now, what's the second? Where the board discussed,
Also discuss conformance with other requirements of the zoning ordinance.
Then are we taking out the sentence that was noted that an office conversion might be possible?
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah,
Okay.
but it is interesting, I think, when we think about problems in town, I mean, we, with the solar amendment, we saw, oh, Scott Bailey can't do that, huh? And now we're seeing that Rusty can't do what seems like a reasonable thing in that spot, and it's like, maybe those are good problems to focus.
Well, how
our
about
attention.
conversion of Brett's place to housing?
Which one's Brett?
Well, what used to
Green
be
Mountain
Green Mountain
Studios.
Studios, which used to be
Oh,
Earl's.
yeah.
I mean, that whole thing could be many units.
Yes.
And that is a great place to put a lot of
Absolutely.
houses.
Absolutely.
And I mean, Brett makes it work, but I bet you the highest and best use could be a lot of houses there and,
You mean in that building
or tear down that building and just use the land because of its location.
So
Well, I
can we finish up the
Yes.
minutes here?
Yeah, let's finish.
Do you think you have enough?
I think I have enough, I just need a motion and a vote.
I move them
Yeah.
as amended.
As amended, yeah. I'll second.
And I have to abstain from the vote because I wasn't here.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And you got
Okay.
that I wasn't there, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
So they're in spirit, though, right?
I was tending to my poor sister.
I have a template that I use, and I have to go through and edit that
Oh.
template every time.
I know.
I've actually finally changed my template to remove David Van Wee and David Roby. And,
Well, they're always here in spirit anyway.
well, David Roby Jr.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Amber Boland,
Boland.
Boland, got her off.
That's been a few years.
Added Nat into the template, so I have
Woo-hoo,
far fewer people to.
he's made it.
Right.
Yeah.
What's
A
the vote?
regular,
The
so.
same? What's the recount?
No, the recount, that was very
Did
interesting.
you
I
win
fell-
by more or
No,
less?
Nat
Nat
won
won.
by one more, he got
That's right.
156.
I guess they found another vote.
Oh,
Well,
I think
actually,
Tim had something
one
to do with
switch,
it.
yeah, right, so.
I think we have alternate delegates, don't we?
Oh, so what happened?
So,
I was out of town, so.
the initial vote count was 155 for Nat and 154 for me.
Wow.
And I said, let's do a recount. And everybody was really gracious about it.
Well, yeah, I don't blame you, I
Well,
would've done a recount.
I know, and they were appropriately gracious, and so what happens is the select board, the town moderator, and the town clerk come in. And, of course, Mark Schiffman is the brandy new town moderator, and Emily Shepherd is the brandy new town clerk, so both, Bill Waste and Patty Jenks were here as well. And so apparently, I can't be in the room. So, but the report that I have is the select board sat over there, and Emily took a bundle of ballots out. Of like, they come in, they clump them in 40, groups of 40 ballots, and they hand it, and each select board goes and examines each ballot, and I guess marks it down, I don't know. And then at the end of the 40, they put them all together, and then they announce their counts. If the counts are the same, they go to the next batch, and they go to the next batch, and then that's how it went.
Sounds like,
So just the select board counted.
could be human error.
Yes.
'Cause I heard it,
Easy.
I heard it was a select board plus another group that had to count, but I
It
guess
was the
not.
moderator and the town clerk.
They had to be present, but
Oh, they had to be
the select
present.
board is the ones that
Yeah.
are the
I see.
ones that actually do
I
this.
see, I see.
And so congratulations again.
So hold it, so what was the outcome?
So the final count
Yes.
is Nat got 156, and I got 153, so
Oh,
One of the
my
votes-
gosh, it made it
one of the
even
ballots
worse.
Oh, so one of them switched, as
One of
opposed
the
to
ballot
them
appears
finding
to
a
have
new
changed.
one.
Yes, right, no,
Yeah, that's
oh,
what I
God.
thought.
Oh, it would be terrible to find, oh, wait, there was this ballot under the that would be,
Right, and it
Wow.
couldn't have been a tie, right, because of the number of votes.
What if it was a tie, then what?
you flip a coin.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yes.
Yes.
Are you
Really?
kidding?
No,
Is that
that's
right?
true.
That's
Absolutely.
democracy.
Yeah.
End
And
of
in this case,
democracy.
it couldn't have been because there were.
It
Well,
happened
not
to,
even
it happened
number.
to a state legislator.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Flip a coin.
And I mean, but,
Ballots of
you know,
power.
not everybody voted. Some people voted for neither.
Right,
Right.
and some people voted for both.
Really?
Apparently, some people
They
did vote for both, and it's like, yep, this is a spoiled ballot.
Oh,
Wow,
Voted for both, that's great.
wow. Wow, that's like,
So
that
this is
should have
like
made the Valley News.
High drama in Lyme here, yes.
No,
It's,
what was it, the stolen geese? That was the Valley News topic for a while here. The beavers and the stolen goose. I think Ray Bergendoff or somebody had geese that the neighbor kept stealing because the geese were obnoxious and chased them on the road and stuff. So that made Valley
Oh
News.
my,
And that was like 35 years ago, right?
That, I know, there's not much that makes it to the news from Lyme.
No, last time I looked at the Valley News, I read an article on the front page, and I picked up 6 grammatical errors within the first paragraph.
Oh, no.
Now, I am probably the worst person for
Uh-huh.
knowing
Yep,
grammar,
yep,
and I said, I can pick out 6,
yep,
then I'm not gonna spend my money on this paper ever again, because it's just,
You did see my picture on the cover of the.
But we did,
Of the front
yes.
of the Valley
You looked
News.
very good.
Yeah, it was great.
Sorry,
Always
I
looking
missed
my
that.
best.
I just look at the
was that from
obituaries.
town meeting?
That's all we get it for, it's the
Look at what?
obituaries. The
Oh, yeah,
obituaries, the
online, I'm
obits.
like, I'm not dead, okay.
No, but it's true, cause I find somebody that's died that I knew that I didn't know about until I read the Valley News, so it's nice to,
Right.
yeah.
Listen, you got in. What? Oh, yeah, there you are, but who's lying down
That's
and,
Hunter Snyder.
and dying?
He's taking notes on his iPad, on his
Looks
tablet.
very dramatic.
Well, it was the Shoestrap Road discussion.
Oh, I see,
And he
I
lives
see,
right,
I see, I
he
see.
lives 20 feet off Shoestrap
Yeah,
Road, so.
So we should keep moving here.
Yeah, yes.
What's next?
Election of officers.
So we have to do.
Yes.
So who
this
wants to be
merger.
chairman? Anybody wanna be chairman?
I would nominate Rich.
Okay, I'll second that.
And I would nominate Vicky if she wants to do it.
You know, I have a problem in that I have had a career of night meetings, and I've had to, since the 80s, however many, 40 years, arrange my schedule around night meetings, and I'm coming to a point in my life where I wanna travel and not have to do it around night meetings, so I feel like I'm happy to help out as much as I can, but, there are times when I need to be gone, and my traveling I'm expecting a grandchild soon, and I only have another like year of travel, and so I need to do that, so if you can stick with it for a year, I'm happy to help. I know you haven't been doing Vermont or New Hampshire stuff for a long time, I'm happy to help in whatever way I can, but I also don't think a chairperson should be absent, and I anticipate the next year I'm still gonna be traveling. So that is my reason why
Yeah, and
I'm
would
ducking it.
I would say that I would give you a lot of support.
Yeah,
I'm happy to do it
that's excellent.
Yeah, well, you can share it with,
with you.
well,
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
So,
it's a big deal, and John did an amazing job, and I know it's a lot of work, and so, you know, if it gets overwhelming, you need to like delegate.
right,
And one thing, I mean, we could do is when we get subdivisions or site plans to come in to deputize somebody to do a really thorough review and report about it. I mean, everybody still needs to do it, but so you're not on the hot seat.
right, cause
Yeah.
John was really good at writing stuff, and he just did
Right.
a lot
Yeah.
of writing stuff up, and
Yeah.
that was,
And-
Well, like you, I've got 3 out-of-state weddings this summer.
Yeah,
Oh, my.
But hopefully I can
Tell
coordinate
them they
those, so
can't
we
get
can
married on
coordinate our
Thursday.
meetings, so.
Right. yeah.
But
Yeah, well-
other than that, yeah, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, and then also, I think that I can contribute a lot by not being chair, but, you know, helping with the master plan chapter, because I just did Hanover's whole
Yeah.
plan, and so I'm kind of like, you know, this is,
right,
shouldn't be that terrible
Sounds
for
good.
us.
right.
So you wanna call for a vote, Tim?
Yes, we need to make a motion, or
No,
we just?
Did we have a motion?
We
We
just
just
had
need
it, and I
Okay.
seconded it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do I vote for myself?
You can.
Sure.
Yeah, you can-
You better.
Okay.
I
Who's our
did.
select board
Yeah.
rep gonna be?
It's still David Kahn, as long
David,
as I
okay.
know.
Okay.
Is he away? He must be away.
I don't know if he's away or not, I haven't seen him this week, but I think unless there's urgent business, he tends to stay away just because he has other meetings also at night for,
Mhm.
and he's on a lot of other committees.
Yeah.
So do we need a vice chair and a secretary?
Vice chair at least, we've never had a secretary, I've pretty much taken that role.
That's good.
Um,
You can,
Yeah.
do you mind keeping?
No,
it?
I kind of consider that my job, so,
Yeah, because you did minutes.
I mean, I'd love to give somebody else the minutes to.
You know, it's a huge service, and thank you so much for doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is good.
Otherwise, we'd have to not come to meetings.
I actually
Or
pay-
not know what we did.
I pay $100 a meeting for the zoning board to get minutes taken,
Yeah,
$100 a meeting?
a meeting.
Wow.
yeah.
Who
I-
takes the minutes?
Dare used
Adair
to.
Mulligan does it, she does a fantastic job. She's been doing it for a long time, knows what she's doing, and is well worth well, it's $100 a meeting, but,
They don't meet that often.
right, they
fortunately,
don't,
so-
not, it's maximum of $1,200 a year.
Yeah.
It's worth every penny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm willing to be stay as vice chair, so. Help Rich.
I'll make a motion to nominate Tim as vice chair.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Come on, Rich, step up.
All right.
All right, so the only last thing I have, I should have printed out more copies of the map, but let me bring it up.
Oh, the merger.
Yeah, this is
Oh, that's right.
a merger that David Roby is doing. Actually, I did send
Yeah,
everyone maps,
I saw
so.
the merger, I also read the RSA, and it looks like we have no say in it, so.
That's pretty much, what I did is I went through,
I've seen it, yeah.
I talked to David and I asked him, I said, do you know that if you merge this, you probably can't subdivide it in the way that it is currently divided up? And he said, yes, I know that. And so, I mean, I just wanted to be sure he knew what he was getting into by making this all one lot.
But, I mean, he has to be, the RSA says you have to sell it with the subdivision allowed. It has to be,
Oh, yeah, well, they can subdivide it, but it's not gonna come out like that.
Yeah, because now it'll be.
because of the road frontages in that orphan lot.
Yeah,
yep, especially that,
Yeah.
that,
yeah, the landlocked lot.
yep.
Yep.
So these are all off of Bear Hill and Claflin and Pico. I don't know if you know where David Roby Jr. lives, right?
Right.
It'll be
Right up there, yeah.
right in this area, so it's
Yep.
right where all those roads merge,
Mhm.
those lots. They're all undeveloped lots, putting them together creates no nonconformities.
Right.
Um,
So it'll become just one lot.
It'll become
and
one
then,
lot.
Unless it's subdivided in the future. it'll
Unless in the
stay
future
one
he-
lot.
Right,
He or somebody down the road applies for a
right, it's a
subdivision.
regular subdivision, yep.
So presumably he's doing this because the taxes are lower?
Yes, you'll, each lot is,
Puts even more of Lyme into current use.
well, it's probably all in current
It's
use.
in current use.
One of the lots is too small for.
No,
current
but
use.
it's a contiguous lot with,
Oh, I see.
so it's,
Yeah,
they're
it
all.
won't change too much.
Yeah, it won't change, but when you look at each individual lot, with the exception of the landlocked one, you would, a small portion of the acreage, the front acreage is taxed at a higher rate because it has the potential of being developed for housing.
Under current
And,
use.
no, under,
And they're-
just, it is.
Yeah.
You'd have to take it out of current use, but it has nothing to do with current use. It's just the way that vacant lots are assessed. So you have that front acreage in each one of those lots that is assessed at a higher value than all the rest of the acreage. When you merge them together, only the front acreage for one lot would be, because now it's one whole lot.
Right.
So instead of having front acreage for 3 out of those 4 lots, you would only have it for 1.
Right.
And so, but even at that, it's not a huge.
No, I don't think David cares anything about the taxes,
No,
I think
it's-
he's just doing it so it's one lot and maybe wouldn't get subdivided in the
Yeah,
future.
it's, the change in taxation is going to be minimal.
Yeah, I think he could care
So,
less.
can we really create a lot that crosses the town road?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
In the zoning, it does allow for it.
Didn't the Greens just did that across Route 10, didn't they?
Yes. Well, they didn't merge, those were lots that were merged by the town.
Oh.
And so those were put back.
Were they unmerged?
Or they were
But they were on two sides of Route 10,
Yeah,
so
they
I'm
were.
just
Right.
saying.
put back to their
Danny and
original
Kathy.
configuration.
Danny and Kathy Green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the zoning does allow for lots to cross roads.
I'll make a motion to approve the merger.
Second.
those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I,
So when do we meet next? Second week in April?
yeah.
Second Thursday. Let's see what.
So do we have any cases coming up?
I have nothing for the board
Okay.
coming up.
Can we work on the, thinking about the housing chapter for the master plan then?
Yeah,
And,
we have what you gave us.
right, and so, well, if it's April 11th, right? So, if everybody could think about goals for the town of Lyme for housing. So let's all bring at least one goal. And if you can think of more, definitely think of more, and then if you are like, oh, what is a goal? Just go to the Hanover chapter 3 in their sustainability master plan, and there are 4 goals in Hanover for the current master plan, which seem to cover like very broad things. I mean, I think we can think about goals, and then what we do when we get our goals is think about strategies, ways the town could come up with, you know, achieving those goals. So this is like big picture, maybe, you know, more affordable housing in Lyme. And then we think about changing zoning, creating a housing trust, you know, the strategies that go with that. So let's just think about the big picture, and then we can get happy with the goals, and then we can brainstorm strategies and kind of work from there. And I think for me, that helped organize writing the chapters, knowing what we're writing about. And so it's almost like a topical thing where we write about that particular goal, the strategies, and how that fits into Lyme for each one, rather than going, oh, there's, you know, 24 manufactured houses and, you know, 200 single-family homes and all that, and we can have all that as background document. And I think that if somebody really wanted to dig into data, whoever likes doing that, I mean, we can use the current census information to develop you know, some of the numbers that we have as background, but in a way, those numbers, you know, what does it matter? We know that we have a housing problem, and it's almost more of a qualitative thing than a quantitative thing that we need to address.
Does anybody think there isn't a house?
Well,
Depends.
well, I don't think it's irrelevant to ask, what is our inventory?
Right.
And
It's
where
not
we
irrelevant.
stand.
Right, no, it's
And
just
because that gives you some sense of
does
how
everybody
big a
feel,
problem
does
it
everybody
is.
feel like there's something there that we should work on?
Well, it's out there,
Yeah.
everybody's been saying it nationwide.
One thing I'll
for quite a
say
while.
is that there's very little information actually out there. The current census only collects information for bigger areas. And even in Hanover, we have a lot of information for the census tract that includes the downtown, but Etna and all that, we don't.
When you're talking about census, are you talking about what the human census is?
What the 2020 census collected
About people?
about
The number of people in
houses,
town.
they collect about houses as
Oh,
well.
so it's the housing census, because we have all of the information from the Vision database
Yeah.
about what we have.
Right, and that's much better than the federal,
Yeah,
yes,
okay,
yes,
so
knowing that, and
Just
then
trying
depending upon what we.
to get the language straight
Right,
here.
and depending upon what we wanna use as a baseline to say, oh, I mean, probably from David, we can find out what the rate of housing production is in Lyme, and, you know,
I mean,
getting.
how many houses are building?
Yes, yeah, and,
Yeah, but
yeah,
at
so-
some point, we're gonna have to get, I think, down to pretty much detail. In other words, if we're gonna change something, we have to figure out how it's gonna affect the whole town, obviously.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And that-
pretty
but
simply,
that's-
you can go to the Keys to the Valley, we have a regional responsibility to provide or accommodate housing in our town. And I think a fairly fair objective study was the Keys to the Valley. Go to their thing and they talk about what, you know, how much your regional share is, and they talk about it between now and 2040. How many new housing units should go in Lyme? And I don't know why we wouldn't just work with that and figure out,
So
well,
we just Google the Keys to the Valley?
it's really buried in there, but yes, you can Google Keys to the Valley, and they have housing needs assessment, and then it's broken out by town, how many housing units. In Hanover, it was 800 housing units that should be produced between 2020 and 2040, and they've got some number that's the same for
But who
Lyme.
decides that? I mean, how do they decide? how
The
much each
regional
town-
planning commission looked at how much housing we need for the area, and then allocated it based on water and sewer availability, you know, proximity to jobs, available land, that type of thing. So, I mean, you can question what they said, but in terms of our regional responsibility, what's wrong with that number? We don't know any better than them what our regional fair share is. Or we can, somebody can write it something about why that's wrong, but, I think that's, I'm gonna posit it's a
Right,
pretty
I mean-
good number to work with, and so,
Yeah,
and
something
so,
to start.
given that number, where would we put that housing? Could we all fit it in the Lyme Common area, or, you know, we didn't need to do something else, so that's, you know, but those are the kind of strategy things we can talk about once we have our goals.
Right, yeah, we wanna, I mean, I like to look way ahead, I know it's impossible, but, you know, what do we want Lyme to look like in 40 years? You know, which is pretty difficult to do, but if we could, it'd be great.
Well, I think we will
Um,
have to focus on that. If we're trying to accommodate X number of housing units, we're gonna need to say where we want that to go and how is that gonna look.
Right, but, you know, what do we want Lyme to look like in 40, you know, do we
Well, we
want
have
it
a
to
pretty
be-
good sense about people don't want change, we already know.
Right,
So
we don't wanna get to the point where it's a place where people don't wanna live, you know.
I understand that. So we have to be very creative and maybe our housing chapter says, actually, we don't wanna do what the regional fair share is, and here's why. And we need to
Yeah.
make
I think-
a
I
good
think-
story.
Or
about
it's
that.
impractical to even
I
consider,
sense
it's
it,
not
but-
feasible to do it.
But
Right.
we can debate that when we know
Yeah.
what that number is. I will find out what the number is for Lyme, but it's informative for everyone to go to that study and read that as background, because it's very well researched. The 3 regional planning commissions got together and worked together because we have a regional housing market. And, you know, they also talk about barriers, that's, you know, which none of that's gonna be new to anybody, but it's
Yeah,
useful context for what we're trying to do here, which is be responsive to that as well as, you know, true to our town and what it can really take.
you know, it'll be interesting to see what they say, you know, for Lyme, what they come.
So I can't be here on the 11th, I'm
You,
flying out
you
to-
can send us some goal
Well, I
ideas,
was,
how about
but
that?
I
I
will,
can't be
I
here
will
either.
definitely do that, but I didn't
You
wanna.
can too. Okay, just write them down, I mean, they don't have to be deep, or, you know, it's like, here's my goal for housing, you know.
But I just wanted to share one piece of data
Yep.
that as kind of a grounding, that if you, the teacher contract for Lyme is
Mhm.
available online.
Mm-hmm,
And if you look at fairly senior teachers, they're making 75 to 80,000 a year.
mm-hmm,
So if you think about how much house could somebody with $75,000 to $80,000 a year of income afford?
mm-hmm.
And wouldn't we want our teachers to be able to live in Lymes? That kind of question.
So it'd have to be subsidized houses.
Would be either subsidized, I mean, it's essentially a $300,000 mortgage, including taxes, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a $300,000 house, including taxes.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and what do we want, just
Good
old,
luck.
old teachers?
luck
The
getting
senior
those.
No,
teachers,
exactly.
we want the
No,
new
no,
teachers
But I was
too.
saying, if the case is bad for them,
Yeah,
then you
Yeah.
prove that, then
Yeah.
it's like.
yeah,
But that gets
Your
to
other-
the feasibility issue.
yeah.
So are you
that-
considering a married person, so it's 2 times 75, or are you saying?
No, I was not
A
expecting.
single
There's a
because-
lot of single people around, so a single income, 75 to 80,000 a year, what can you afford?
Or if
I don't think they can.
they're married with kids and the wife can't work.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so when we had, remember we had the, like, housing discussions, and we had, you know, why can't young professionals come to Lyme? Who was on the board then? It was pretty interesting, because we had somebody who's in like Upper Valley, young people, and we also had a real estate person.
Yeah, I remember the real estate.
And, yeah, and they were basically saying, well, one, there's not good internet, and
Right.
two, there's no cell coverage, and then the housing types that we have are all too big, you know, for young professionals to be locating here. And so, I mean, I would call a teacher a young professional. If you're single young, why should you have to be married to live in Lyme? You know?
Exactly, no,
You know,
exactly.
so.
Exactly.
I
and-
remember that.
I will
Yeah, you know,
just
so-
note that salary range is on the high end for the town. If you look at the highway
Absolutely.
department, the police
Oh,
department,
absolutely.
Yes,
town offices.
But if,
they're-
if we prove the
Yeah.
case that it's impossible for that person to
Exactly,
here, then
but
obviously
I'm just saying that, you know, that,
everybody else
Right.
flows from that.
you know, that, those salary ranges are high for,
Right.
you know, so if you look at the highway department and not even close.
I know.
So maybe one of our goals is to have housing for town employees. And then how do we do that, is our strategies, you know, so, but
Yeah.
everyone can come up with, you know, as many goals as you want, and then we can start working on how do we do these things. So just a starting point, and then we can get into narrative and all that, and,
Sure.
you know, doing data can be in an appendix, so that anybody can see how many houses, and could you figure out what are kind of, in the past 10 years, how many new homes?
Oh, yeah, I have that all in a,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
track all the building permits in an access
that's great.
database, so I can just
and
go
so,
by year and.
so,
Could I get another refresh of that list? Thank you, I'll send you an email.
Yeah.
so it'd be really nice to have like maybe, you know, a little bit of history, maybe over the past 20 years, how many homes have been built.
Yeah, I
and-
don't be able to go that far back.
Okay, well, as ever far back as you can, just so we have some current, that'd be good, have that real, and then I don't know if we wanna update the, what was the inventory like
Oh, when we did when John and I drove
around?
all over, yeah, that
Yeah.
many years ago was that time? Yeah, we drove all over town and we looked at every house, basically.
Right.
And then we've, at that time, we figured that 29%, almost 30% of the houses in Lyme qualified for, workforce housing.
Well, we're appraised.
We're appraised,
Yeah.
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 It was really, it was kind of a surprise.
Ought to relook at that number now that, you know, we've had the adjustment.
Right,
Yeah.
The current
Of course.
assessment is it's at 63% of market. So your house assessment is at 63% of market value.
Appraisal.
Appraisal, sorry.
Right.
So,
really?
yeah, oh, it's
I
terrible.
just got something
Wow.
that said it was like in the eighties.
Not in Lyme.
I just
The,
had an independent appraisal done.
Oh, yes, but this is from the DRA. The DRA letter says, when considering abatements, the value in Lyme is 63.8% of market value.
Right.
Wow.
So, I don't understand what that,
That means that they're
Yeah.
not, that our assessed values are.
40% under.
40% under what the real market value
but
would
why,
be.
if I just had an appraisal done,
well, I mean, not everybody is exactly 63%.
Oh.
Right, so the average.
oh, okay, the
Yeah.
average.
Right.
okay.
Right, but that just means that our tax rate is
Inflated,
higher,
yes.
it's higher. I mean, what
Yeah.
really matters is how much money the town spends.
Right,
And that's
Right.
really the only thing that matters. So if everybody's assessed, say fairly equally, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what you're assessed, because you're paying, you know, for the amount of money the town spends. If we're assessed at 100% of value, then our tax rate just comes down.
Comes down, yeah.
Yeah, so it's all, you know.
But it
A lot of
doesn't,
people
it's
don't
not gonna
understand.
save you any money.
Right.
Because
No.
you still,
Because we still have to spend what is it now? It's almost 10 million, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, is it 11 now?
So does the state require a reassessment after it drops to a certain level, or?
Yes,
Well, I think we're required every 5 years anyway, right?
and in fact, if the state finds that the equalization rate is under 80%,
Yeah.
that you need to revalue, and so we're at 63. So the select board just recently has said, yep, we're starting to budget money for
But they
revaluation.
haven't sent out an RFP, and assessors are very hard to find.
Yeah, right, so,
the last time they sent one out, they only got one reply.
wow,
Because wasn't it years ago when, what was her name? that was-
Diana.
Diana.
Jeez.
I mean, she did it all the time, right? So we never really had to hire, she saved us a huge amount of money.
Well, no, she was a subcontractor, just like Todd is.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, she did it gradually, you know.
Well,
just
but she
kinda-
does
That's-
Todd also
That's what
does.
Todd does.
Yeah,
He does
He does
20% a year.
exactly the same.
20% a year.
but then right, so that should keep it pretty close.
But the problem right now is that market prices are, you know, you're still paying far over
Right.
the assessed value for houses. And even though the assessments all went up, people are still spending more than that.
Well, and it's not
linear. The
Yeah.
expensive houses are going for even more above their assessed value than the cheaper houses are.
Yeah, cause I think, as I was saying, it doesn't matter what your assessment is, as long as everybody's pretty equal.
Well, but that's the
Right, so
problem.
that's the problem, it's
That's the
not.
problem, that the
Right, well,
low
that's-
value, lower priced homes are closer to their market value.
Right.
So, no, let me say it the other way.
Yeah,
The appraised value of low priced homes is pretty close to the actual market value.
right,
The, for whatever reason, the formula that the town uses to compute the appraised value,
or the DR.
for the expensive homes, they're as much as 50% below their actual market value.
But it's not the town that does it, it's,
Yeah.
It is the town, yeah.
Town.
well, I thought
No, it's the
the
town.
state does.
Yeah,
So I wonder, could
Wow.
everybody send their goals into David, like
Yep.
next week? And then he can compile a list that he can then send out to us, and of course, there's gonna be some that'll be the same and some that'll be
Sure.
different. But then we just have a list to work
Yep.
from,
Yeah.
and
Thank
that'll
you,
just
Vicky,
expedite
yes.
the conversation, I think, so
Right.
we're not like reading our own goals and, oh, I got Nate's, and I'm gonna like read his, and, yeah, so, yeah. So,
Yep.
okay,
One-stop shopping.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that we can figure that, and then we can probably collapse a lot of them.
Yep.
Okay, anything else? Oh, what, yeah, I guess that's it, right? There's nothing. Motion to adjourn.
No, you do that, right?
No, he's running the meeting.
Oh, he's running.
We'll let him finish up.
Second, all right.
All right,
Great.
thanks, everybody.
So you still, when you see your sister?
She had her hip replaced 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
and so I spent the first week with her.
So I'm glad you're better.
First 36